I'm going to talk about today about the racism in the Mormon church. Now, this is ludicrous in these days, but there's some truth maybe in the history. But this truth is usually misrepresented quite badly. Okay, let's think about the 1800s America. Very racist country. Land of freedom and hope. Ooh, that was such a huge BS in those days. First of all, evangelical and Protestant tradition had that Noah cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. That is in the Bible also. And that Ham's son, Canaan, was supposed to be the servant of the servants, or a servant for his brothers, meaning the slave. And this is exactly what the Protestants believed and took it literally. Baptists and Methodists especially hated the blacks and thought that they should be slaves. Joseph Smith, on the other hand, didn't think so. Joseph Smith said many good things about the black people. You can read them from his biographies, such as The Rough Stone Rolling by Bushman. Also, we need to remember that when Joseph Smith produced the Book of Abraham, he seemed to make the black issue a little bit milder. Instead of having the blacks to be slaves, it was changed to be that the blacks would just not hold the priesthood, to make it milder. Now, let's remember that you can't take such a huge steps always in the history. When the blacks were liberated first, there was the Civil War in America. So obviously Joseph Smith needed to take a milder approach before giving them equal rights. But Joseph wanted to give them the equal rights. Also, many black people outside America, especially in South America and also in Australia, they received the priesthood. So it was more about the lineage that was believed to come from Africa that they didn't give it. So it would go according to the Book of Abraham. Now also, the blacks. Latter-day Saints always let the blacks to join their church. And even in the very early 1900s, they were given the permission to go to temples as well. So the claim that even until 1978 they couldn't go to the temple is false. And the blacks, there's a lot of good stories about these black people. And I would encourage people to read them from various websites about Mormonism, where the black people tell their own stories about the church and being members in the church. Next, I would like to talk about the biblical racism. Now, Bible is probably the most racist book you can find if you take it literally and with the same context and standards what the anti-Mormons always represent the Mormons. First of all, the priesthood was given only to Aaron and his lineage in the Old Testament. And God very often called the other nations around Israel to be wicked and also useless people. And many times he commanded them to be genocide. So Jews to genocide the people around them. So that doesn't sound very nice. The Jews were also forbidden to marry people outside Israel. That sounds pretty bad to me, at least according to today's standards. Let's remember also Ezra, the high priest, when he brought the Jews back from Babylonian captivity, there were people that were denied their priesthood because they could not prove their lineage to the tribe of Aaron. So they were denied. They were put away from their priesthood. And also those people who had married women from outside Israel, they were compelled to divorce their wives. So that sounds pretty damn racist to me. And then you go and put these standards to Mormons, that how they're so racist. Wow, that's pretty stupid to me, to be honest. Important also is remember the New Testament times. Remember that Jesus told the apostles not to go among the heathen or the Samaritans, not to go teach to them, only to teach the Israelites or the Jews. Also, the woman who was not a Jew was asking Jesus to help her. And Jesus said that, now I'm sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And then she was asking more and more, and Jesus then said, it's not meet to take the bread from the children and cast it onto dogs. And that sounds pretty racist to me, unless you understand what Jesus was really meaning. But then, because she showed such a huge faith, Jesus made an exception with her and just gave her what she wanted to. Otherwise, Jesus made it very clear that he's not there for other people, other races, only the Jews. Now remember also, eventually the apostles received the vision that now it's time to take the gospel to all the nations. So that sounds pretty similar to the Mormons as well, doesn't it? So that's kind of biblical in a way, if you think about it. Let's also remember that Peter, he didn't seem to be such a good friend of the different races, because when he was in Antioch, he pissed Paul off, because when the Jews came, Peter separated himself from the Gentiles and just took all the Jews with him, and wanted to kind of show that, you know, he's not a friend with these Gentiles here. Come on, huh? So remember these things now from the New Testament when you apply harsh criticism to Latter-day Saint teachers in the past, and that is more honest. Okay. But Mormons, they do not compel you not to marry somebody who is not of your own race. They do discourage it, because it usually brings a lot of challenges into marriage if you have interracial marriage. Nothing to do with racism, it's just a fact of life. It does bring different challenges in many cases. But church members have always, at least, been friendly to black people, and they always wanted for their best. Even though some people have been prejudiced, and also that the Brigham Young and some other early leaders in the church have said some harsh words about the black people, but remember that those people were only products of their own time, and they had the same prejudices that all the other people had, and they also most likely lived in the same traditional understanding of the lineage of Canaan, and so you can't really blame them for that. And but we can't really know ultimately for sure. But what I can tell you is that we haven't been such a hate preachers against blacks as the Christians generally have been. So we haven't gone to the Middle East to crusades to murder everybody who will not convert to Christianity. We haven't gone to Africa to bring those slaves into our countries to enslave them by appealing to the Bible. Never. But now, concerning blacks, there's a website you can all go and read yourself. It's done by black members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they will address many of these issues there according to their understanding as black people. The website is blacklds.org. So go and check it out from there, and you'll see for yourself what the black LDS think about the church and the history and the context of all the things, and how they've accepted the church nevertheless, even if some things seem a little bit weird. But still, check their opinions. They probably know a little bit better than the anti-Mormons, who usually are white, which is pretty funny. Anyway, have a good day, mates.